You never expect your whole life to change in the span of 2 minutes. But that's exactly what happened to me in aisle 3 of a suburban supermarket, right between the bottled water and the granola bars. I wasn't supposed to be there. I have a driver, a chef, an assistant who usually handles every detail of my life. But that day, something pulled me to stop. It was a hot afternoon, and I had a meeting out of town. I told Chris, my assistant, to pull over. I just wanted some water. That's all. Or so I thought. I stepped into the store, head down, sunglasses on. I didn't want attention. I walked quickly, trying to get what I needed without any delays. But then I saw her. She was at checkout lane 4. She laughed at something the older woman in front of her said, and I swear, time stalled. It wasn't just her looks, though yes, she was stunning. Not model gorgeous, not the kind of beauty you find on magazine covers. It was real. Warm. Her skin glowed in the harsh fluorescent lights. Her hair was pulled into a loose ponytail. But it was her eyes that stopped me. Honest. A little tired. Maybe a little sad. But full of something deeper. Life. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I stood frozen, gripping a cold bottle of water like it was the only thing anchoring me to the ground. And then I left. Just like that. I walked out, got in the car, and drove off. But for the next 2 days, I thought about nothing else. Not the board meeting I chaired. Not the deal I closed for $12 million. Not even the weekend getaway my on-again off-again girlfriend texted me about. All I saw were her eyes. I wasn't used to this. I was used to control. Structure. Predictability. Feelings like this weren't part of the plan. Chris, I said on the 3rd day, after another night of restless sleep, I need you to find someone for me. His brow lifted just a bit. He was used to strange requests, hotel buyouts, last-minute jet bookings, even birthday parties for dogs. But I'd never asked for a woman. I saw her at the Hannigan's Market off Highway 17. Checkout lane 4. Tuesday afternoon. Find her name. And set up a dinner. Something beautiful. Private. I want it done by Friday. Chris didn't ask questions. He never did. That's part of why I pay him 6 figures. Friday came. I wore a navy suit, tailored, nothing flashy. I didn't want to look like a billionaire trying to impress. I just wanted to look like a man who meant what he was about to do. Chris rented out the garden terrace at Le Jardin, quiet, romantic, candlelit. He gave her a letter instead of just telling her who I was. Said it would be more poetic. The letter simply asked her to join me for dinner, if she was curious enough to say yes. I waited. I waited longer than I expected. I was checking my watch when I heard her footsteps. And then she was there. Her name was Emily. She looked unsure. Her hands were clasped in front of her. She wore a soft green dress, one that looked like it hadn't come from a high-end boutique, but it suited her better than anything expensive could. "You're the guy with the water," she said quietly, with a shy smile. I smiled back, standing to pull out her chair. "And you're the woman who made me forget how to speak." She laughed. Just a little. But I saw her relax, even if it was just a fraction. Dinner started slowly. Small talk. She was polite but cautious. I learned she'd worked at the market for 3 years. Before that, she waitressed. She didn't say much about family, and I didn't push. But halfway through dessert, the shift happened. I asked her what she really wanted to do. Not just for a job, but for herself. Her eyes darted away. "I used to want to study art," she said. "Sketching. Watercolors. I was good, once. What happened?" She looked down at her hands. "Life." A pause. The kind that says more than words ever could. I leaned forward. "Tell me." And slowly, she did. She was 20 when her mother died of cancer. She dropped out of school to care for her younger sister, who was still in middle school at the time. There was no one else. Her father had disappeared when she was a baby. "I used to dream big," she said, voice soft. But dreams feel like luxuries when you're trying to pay rent and keep someone else fed. I said nothing. I couldn't. My world, the private jets, the skyscrapers, the suits, suddenly felt so hollow. She wasn't asking for sympathy. She wasn't bitter. She was just telling the truth. And it hit me like a freight train. I always promised myself I wouldn't settle, she continued. But somewhere along the way, I think I did. I looked at her for a long time. You didn't settle, Emily. You survived. There's a difference. Her eyes filled, just a little. She looked away, blinking fast. You don't know me, she said. Not yet, I replied. But I'd like to. The night ended gently. I walked her to the car Chris had arranged. She hesitated before stepping in. Why me? She asked. Why would someone like you? Because, I interrupted, you made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. She didn't reply. She just looked at me. And this time, I saw something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Hope. As the car pulled away, I stood there under the string lights, heart pounding, realizing something I couldn't deny anymore. I was falling. And I had no idea what that would cost me. The night after our dinner, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of my penthouse, the city lights pouring in through the glass walls like ghosts of a world I suddenly didn't care about. I kept replaying her voice in my head, the quiet strength of it. Her smile when I pulled out her chair. The way her fingers twisted slightly when she spoke about her past. I've had women in my life. Many. But they always wanted something, status, money, a piece of the empire I'd built. Emily. She didn't want anything. In fact, I think if I had offered her something, she might have run. And maybe that's what made her different. She didn't ask. She didn't expect. And somehow, that made me want to give her everything. The next morning, I called Chris. She made it home safe. I asked. Yes, he said. Texted me a polite thank you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Chris paused. You expected something more? I didn't answer. It had been years since I pursued anyone, not like this. Usually, it was the other way around, phone numbers slid across cocktail napkins, curated Instagram DMs, introductions through friends who wanted something for themselves. But this felt delicate. Like if I pushed too hard, I'd break it. Send flowers, I said. Nothing extravagant. Just tasteful. To her work or her home. That stopped me. Her job was her livelihood. And if she wanted privacy, I had to respect that. Her home, I said. And include a note. What should it say? I hesitated. Just tell her I enjoyed our dinner. And that I'd like to see her again. No pressure. Chris sighed slightly on the other end. You know, you've made CEOs cry during negotiations. I've never heard you sound nervous before. I'm not nervous, I lied. He didn't press it. The flowers went out that afternoon. And then I waited. Days passed. No call. No text. Nothing. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I came on too strong. Maybe she saw my life and realized she didn't fit in it. Or maybe she just wasn't interested. On the 5th day, just as I was about to tell myself to move on, I got a message. From unknown number. I got the flowers. Thank you. They were beautiful. I didn't know if I should respond, but I've been thinking about you too. Would you like to take a walk sometime? Something simple. Just us. I stared at the text for a long time. Then I smiled. And texted back, tell me when and where. I'll be there. We met at a park. Just a small neighborhood one, near where she lived. It was late afternoon, golden hour. Kids played on swings. A dog barked somewhere. It was the kind of place that felt worlds away from my usual existence of polished boardrooms and private clubs. Emily was already there, sitting on a bench, her hair down this time, a paperback novel in her lap. You read? I asked as I approached. Sometimes, she said. Helps me escape. Though lately, reality has been more interesting. I grinned. That's a good thing, I hope. It is, she said, softly. We walked slowly, the kind of walk where neither of us had anywhere else to be. She told me more about her life, how her sister was now in college on a partial scholarship, how she still worked at the market to cover the bills, even though her feet ached most nights. She never complained. Just spoke the truth. I told her a little about my world too. The good and the bad. The deals, the stress, the loneliness of always being needed but rarely known. I left out the yachts and the awards and the articles written about me in financial magazines. None of that mattered with her. She didn't care. After a while, we found a small cafe. Sat on the patio with coffee and lemon cake. She laughed when I tried to pronounce the name of the fancy roast. I liked that she laughed. There was no kiss that day. No big moment. Just connection. That was enough. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other more. Always simple. Walks. Cafes. Conversations that stretched longer than I meant them to. She showed me parts of the city I'd never known, little bookstores, street fairs, second-hand shops that smelled like dust and stories. I loved how curious she was. How she listened. How she could hold silence without needing to fill it. That's a rare gift. But with every day, I also felt a quiet resistance building inside her. Like she was bracing for something. One night, we sat on a bench overlooking the river. She pulled her cardigan tighter around her. Why me? She asked again. I looked at her. Why not you? Because you live in a world I don't belong to, she said. You have assistants and limos and chefs. I eat cereal for dinner and clip coupons. I don't care about any of that. I know, she said. But the world does. I took her hand, gently. Let me ask you something, Emily. When you're with me, just us, do you feel happy? She nodded. Safe. Yes. Then let's worry about the rest later. She smiled, but there was sadness behind it. I want to believe you, she whispered. Then do. But even as I said it, I could feel something shifting, like there was a piece of her I still hadn't reached. A shadow she hadn't spoken of yet. The next day, Chris called. There's something you should know, he said. My stomach dropped. I did a light background check. Just for security. I didn't go deep. But, her sister, Rachel, got into some trouble a year ago. Shoplifting. Emily paid the fine. Took the blame in court records. I didn't know what to say. Chris continued. And there's an ex-guy named Derek. Not recent. But he caused her a lot of problems. Financial and emotional. Is she still in contact with him? Doesn't look like it. But I figured you'd want to know. You're not usually this vulnerable. I hung up and sat there for a long time. I didn't care about her past. Not in the way that would make me walk away. But I realized I didn't know her whole story. Not yet. And if I wanted to be part of her future, I needed to understand her past. That night, I asked her if we could talk. Not a date. Just talk. We met again by the river. The same bench. I turned to her. Emily, what are you afraid of? She looked at me. Really looked. And then, for the first time since I met her, she told me the truth. I was engaged once, she said. To someone I thought loved me. He didn't. He used me. Lied to me. Left me in debt. And I swore I'd never trust anyone with power over me again. I reached for her hand. I'm not him. I know, she said. But it still scares me. Falling for someone like you. Someone who could walk away, and I'd be back where I started. I felt something crack open in my chest. A mix of anger at what she'd gone through, and fear. Fear that maybe she wouldn't let me in. But I wouldn't walk away. Not now. I'm not going anywhere, Emily, I said. Not unless you tell me to. She didn't speak. Just laid her head on my shoulder. And for the first time, she let herself lean on me. But I knew this was only the beginning. Because love wasn't just about connection. It was about trust. And she had every reason to be cautious. Trust is a fragile thing. You can build it with every kind word, every honest look, every hand held in silence, and still, it trembles when the past knocks on the door. That night by the river, with Emily's head resting gently on my shoulder, I felt closer to her than I had to anyone in years. And yet, I also knew she was still holding back. Not because she didn't feel what I felt, but because feeling it terrified her. We began to see each other more often after that night. Not in the ways I was used to, no grand gestures, no luxury escapes. Instead, we found comfort in small things. Cooking simple dinners at her apartment. Sitting on the floor, listening to old records. She had a stack of vinyls from her mother's collection, Carole King, Fleetwood Mac, Otis Redding. Music that felt like it remembered pain. One night, while washing dishes, I said something that made her laugh so hard she snorted. She covered her mouth, eyes wide, mortified. I just smiled and kissed her on the forehead. It was in those moments, in the quiet ordinary, that I realized I wasn't just falling in love with Emily, I was falling in love with life again. A life that wasn't curated, filtered, or scheduled by an assistant. A life that wasn't built on balance sheets. But the truth has a way of waiting. And when it arrives, it doesn't knock, it kicks the door open. It started with a voicemail. I was at the office, in a meeting with legal and finance. Chris walked in, his face pale. "You need to listen to this," he said, handing me his phone. The message was from a blocked number. The voice was male. Low. Mocking. "You think she's clean, don't you? Sweet little cashier. Ask her what she did 3 years ago. Ask her about Derek. She's not who you think she is." My stomach tightened. I looked at Chris. "Did you trace it?" "Working on it," he said. "But I think it's him. The ex-Derek Foster." I clenched my jaw. "Why now?" "No idea. But it sounds like he knows you're involved." I spent the rest of the day in a fog. The part of me that had built an empire, sharp, logical, strategic, kicked into overdrive. I wanted to track Derek down. I wanted answers. But more than anything, I wanted to hear the truth from her. That night, I went to Emily's apartment. She opened the door, still in her work clothes, hair up in a loose bun, the smell of tomato soup in the air. "You look like you haven't slept," she said. "I need to ask you something," I said, stepping inside. Her smile faded. We sat on the couch. I didn't waste time. "Who is Derek, Emily? And what happened 3 years ago?" Her face went still. Her hands folded in her lap. She stared at the floor. "I was going to tell you," she said quietly. "I just didn't know how. Tell me now." She took a shaky breath. "I met Derek when I was 24. He was charming. Charismatic. Said all the right things. I was lonely. I thought he saw me." She looked up, eyes glassy. "He moved in after 3 months. Started using my credit cards. Got me to take out a loan in my name to start a business. It never existed. Then one day he vanished. Took everything. Left me with debt I'm still paying off." I sat back, my chest tight. "And the voicemail?" I asked. "He said you did something." Her face flushed with shame. "He got arrested for check fraud a year later. When the police came, they questioned me. He put some of the accounts in my name. I didn't even know. They threatened to charge me unless I cooperated. I gave them everything I had, emails, records, texts. But my name was still in the file. And you never told me. I was afraid you'd think I was damaged. Or a liar. Or worse." Her voice cracked on the last word. I reached for her hand. "I don't care about your past," I said. "But I care about you being honest with me. We can't build anything if you're always afraid I'll walk away." She wiped her eyes. "I'm not used to people staying. I'm not leaving." But I felt the weight of what she carried now, more than just debt or trauma. It was shame. And fear. The kind that doesn't just go away because someone says, "I love you." Though. I hadn't said that yet. Not out loud. The next morning, Chris handed me a folder. "We found Derek," he said. "He's in town. Working for a landscaping company under a fake name. He's been asking around about Emily. Looks like he's trying to shake her down." Rage rose in me like fire. "Can we stop him? We can file a restraining order. Might scare him off. Or," Chris paused, "you could pay him to disappear." I shook my head. "No money. He took enough from her already. I'll handle it." I went to see him. He was working at a job site, trimming hedges at some mansion in the hills. When he saw me, he smirked like he'd won something. Well. The suit shows up in person," he said. "Didn't expect that." "I know what you did to her," I said calmly. "Which time?" he chuckled. "She's a pretty little thing. Bit too naive for her own good. But I guess that's your type now, huh?" I stepped closer. "If you ever go near her again, if you ever so much as think about contacting her, I'll bury you in court filings and federal charges. You want attention? I'll make sure every paper in this country knows your name." He laughed, but I saw the flicker of fear. "You rich boys always think you can fix everything," he said. "No," I said. "Just the things worth fixing. And you're not one of them." That night, I went back to Emily's. I found her sitting on the fire escape, knees tucked to her chest, looking at the skyline. "You talked to him, didn't you?" she asked before I even spoke. "Yes." Her shoulders sank. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. He's not your fault. And he won't bother you again." She turned to me. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I care about you." Her eyes searched mine. "That's not a reason. Not for someone like you." I took her hand. "Then let me give you the real one," I said. And for the first time, I said it. "I love you, Emily." She stared at me, breath caught in her throat. "I don't expect you to say it back," I added. "But I needed you to know. Not because I want anything from you. But because for the first time in my life, I feel like I've found something real. And I'm not letting fear take it from me." Her eyes welled up. Then, she whispered, "I've been trying not to feel it. But I do. I love you too." We sat there, the city buzzing behind us, the future uncertain but no longer terrifying. Because now, we were facing it together. Falling in love with Emily changed the rhythm of my life. The days that used to blend into one another, conference calls, board meetings, cold dinners alone, began to feel warmer, fuller, almost human again. The penthouse, once echoing with silence, now smelled like her vanilla shampoo or whatever she had baked that afternoon. My bed, once too big, finally felt like it belonged to two people. I was still me, successful, driven, complicated, but around her, I wasn't performing. I didn't have to. Still, love, real love, doesn't come without friction. We were from different worlds, and even when you try to meet in the middle, your past always wants to drag you back. It started with an invitation. My company was hosting a gala, charity fundraiser, high-profile guests, luxury everything. Normally, I went alone or brought a client. This time, I wanted Emily by my side. When I told her, she hesitated. "I don't know, Noah, it's not really my scene." "It doesn't have to be your scene," I said. "You'll be with me." She fidgeted with the drawstring on her sweatshirt. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that. I don't even know which fork to use at those dinners." I smiled. "I can teach you the forks." She gave a nervous laugh, but I could still see the worry behind her eyes. "It's just. I don't want people looking at me like I don't belong." "They already look at me that way, too," I said gently. "You just don't notice because I pretend not to care." That made her smile. "Fine. But only if you promise not to make me give a speech." "I swear." I thought that was it, that we had cleared the hurdle. But I underestimated how deep her insecurities ran. The night of the gala, I sent a car to pick her up. My assistant had helped arrange a dress, elegant, simple, midnight blue. When she stepped out of the car and into the lobby of the venue, I felt my breath catch in my throat. She looked stunning. Not because of the dress, but because of the quiet grace she carried, even when she felt out of place. "You're staring," she whispered when she reached me. "Because I've never seen anyone more beautiful," I replied. She blushed, but I could tell she didn't quite believe me. Inside, the room was full of people who measured their worth by power, price tags, and proximity to the spotlight. I kept Emily close, introducing her only to those I trusted to be decent, people who didn't ask her where she bought her shoes or what college she went to. But not everyone was kind. At one point, while I stepped away to take a phone call, a woman I knew from the investment world, a sharp-tongued heiress named Celeste, approached Emily. By the time I returned, Emily's face was pale, her posture tight. "What happened?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "Just got tired. Can we go soon?" I nodded. Later, in the car, she finally told me. She asked me if I was the caterer's date, Emily said, her voice quiet. Then when I said I was with you, she laughed. Said it was nice you were into charity cases off the clock, too. Rage flared in my chest. I knew Celeste was cruel, but this. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be," Emily replied. "It just reminded me. I'm not like them. I never will be." I turned to her. "Good. That's why I love you." She smiled, but I could see something had shifted. A seed of doubt, planted and now growing in silence. Over the next few weeks, that doubt began to show. She canceled plans more often. Said she was tired from work. Said she needed time to think. I tried not to panic. I gave her space. But inside, I felt like I was losing her, one quiet excuse at a time. One Saturday, I surprised her at the market. She was stocking shelves, wearing her red vest and name tag. When she saw me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thought I'd take you out for lunch," I said. She looked around. "Now. I have another hour left. I'll wait." She hesitated. Then sighed. "Okay." An hour later, we sat at a small cafe nearby. She barely touched her food. "Emily," I said, "tell me what's going on." She looked at me, eyes tired. "I don't know how to do this, Noah. I don't know how to fit into your world. I feel like I'm pretending every time I'm with you." "You're not pretending." "I am. I don't have the right clothes. I don't know how to make conversation with your friends. I can't follow half the things you talk about. And when I look at you, I keep wondering when you'll wake up and realize I'm just a girl who bags groceries." I reached across the table, took her hand. "You're not just anything, Emily. You're everything." She blinked, holding back tears. "I used to dream about a life like yours," she said. "But now that I'm close to it, I don't know if I belong there." "Then we'll build our own," I said. "What does that even mean?" "It means I don't need the galas. Or the fancy clubs. Or the people who look down their noses at you. I need you. And if that means trading champagne for soup nights and skyline views for fire escapes, I'll do it." Without a second thought. Tears welled in her eyes. "Don't say that unless you mean it." "I mean it." She squeezed my hand. "I'm scared." "So am I," I whispered. "But that's how I know it's real." A week later, Emily did something that surprised me. She invited me to her sister Rachel's college recital. It was in a community center, folding chairs, cheap microphones, small-town charm. But the moment I walked in with Emily beside me, I realized what she was doing. She was letting me into her real world. Rachel was nervous when she met me. Clearly protective. But kind. I saw the way she looked at Emily, the way she leaned into her when they hugged, and I understood just how much Emily had carried for this family. How much she had sacrificed. After the performance, Rachel joined us for ice cream. We sat at a picnic table, laughing about a kid who had run off stage mid-recital. It felt perfect. Not because it was polished, but because it wasn't. When Emily walked me to my car that night, I could tell something had changed. "You're really not running away, are you?" she asked. Not unless you tell me to. She leaned in. Kissed me softly. I won't, she whispered. But peace never lasts long when the past isn't done with you. The next morning, Chris called. I thought you should see this, he said, forwarding me a photo. It was blurry, taken through a windshield, but clear enough. Emily. Standing in the parking lot of her work. Talking to Derek. My chest went cold. She hadn't mentioned it. Not once. I stared at the photo for a long time, my mind racing. Why hadn't she told me? What did he want? And what did this mean for us? It's a strange thing, how one image, one frozen moment in time, can split your mind in two. One part wants to believe. The other starts building walls. That photo of Emily with Derek burned in my head. I couldn't stop looking at it. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't laughing. But she also wasn't walking away. I told myself there was probably an explanation. A simple, harmless reason. But a part of me, an old part that had learned never to let its guard down, started whispering doubt. Chris was cautious when he called. I didn't want to show you this, Noah. But if I didn't, and something happened. You did the right thing, I said, though I hated that it was true. I waited a full day before saying anything to her. I needed to calm down. I needed to think. But mostly, I needed to figure out what hurt more, the fear of betrayal, or the fear of not trusting her. When I finally saw Emily again, it was at her apartment. She opened the door with a bright smile and a kiss on the cheek, like nothing was wrong. Maybe nothing was. Or maybe she was hiding something too well. We ate dinner together. Chicken stir-fry. The kind of meal we'd made dozens of times before. She told me about a funny customer who tried to pay with a Canadian dollar. I laughed, but not with my whole heart. And then, as we were washing dishes, I said it. I saw a picture of you yesterday. She paused. The sponge in her hand went still. With Rachel, she asked, voice casual. No, I said softly. With Derek. The silence was immediate. Heavy. Deafening. She didn't look at me. How? She finally asked. My assistant saw you. Took a photo. He thought I should know. She set the sponge down. Wiped her hand slowly. I didn't tell you, she said, her voice quiet, because I didn't want to bring him back into our lives. I didn't want him to have power over me anymore. What did he want? She looked at me now. Eyes full of shame, but not guilt. He said he needed money. Claimed he was going to leave town if I helped him get a bus ticket. Said he had a job lined up in Chicago. And you believed him? She shook her head. No. But I gave him the money anyway. The breath caught in my chest. You what? I just wanted him gone, she said, her voice cracking. I needed to know he wouldn't come back and start threatening you. Or Rachel. I thought if I paid him off, it would be over. I took a step back, feeling a strange mix of frustration, fear, and something deeper, disappointment. Why didn't you come to me? I asked. Why didn't you trust me enough to handle it together? Her eyes filled with tears. Because I'm not used to having someone who stays. I didn't want to look weak. Or like I was still tangled up in his mess. I thought if I fixed it quietly, it would just go away. I paced the room, my mind racing. I told you, Emily. I don't care about your past. But I care about honesty. I can't protect you if I don't know what's happening. I didn't want protection, she whispered. I wanted peace. That stopped me. Those words landed heavy. She wasn't trying to deceive me. She was just tired. Tired of being the girl who always needed saving. Tired of being someone's project. I softened. I get it, I said. I do. But from now on, if something happens, you tell me. Even if it's ugly. Even if you're afraid. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I pulled her into my arms. We're not perfect, I said. But we're stronger together. No more secrets. Things got better after that. We took a weekend trip to the coast. No phones. No emails. Just her and me, walking along the beach, laughing over cheap seafood, and making sandcastles like kids. She told me about her childhood then. How her dad left when she was 8. How her mom worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. How she used to hide in the library after school to escape the noise of home. You've been fighting your whole life, I said. She smiled, wistfully. And for the first time, I don't feel like I have to. That trip reminded us both of what mattered. It wasn't the gala invites or the chaos Derek brought. It was the simplicity of choosing each other, every day. But life doesn't always let you stay in the quiet places. Sometimes it drags you back into the noise. 2 weeks later, Emily was offered a promotion at the supermarket. Not a big one, assistant shift manager, but it meant more hours, more pay, and a step towards something better. When she told me, I expected her to be excited. But she looked conflicted. They want me to start nights, she said. 3 times a week. And? I asked. And that means less time with you. Less time with Rachel. Less life. You can say no, I offered. But I want to say yes, she replied. I've worked hard. I want to feel like I'm moving forward. Not just existing. I understood that. Deeply. You should take it, I said. Are you sure? Yes. I'll wait up for you. I'll show up with coffee in the mornings. We'll figure it out. She smiled, but I could still see doubt. What? I asked. I keep thinking I'll mess this up, she said. That I'll push too hard or not enough. That I'll become someone you don't recognize. I took her hand. Emily, I didn't fall in love with a perfect version of you. I fell for the woman who bags groceries and makes the best bad jokes and fights for everyone she loves. That's the woman I want. No matter what hours she works. So she took the job. And for a while, it worked. We adjusted. We adapted. But something else began to creep in. My world, once carefully compartmentalized, was beginning to shift. I started saying no to things I used to chase. Deals. Dinners. Business trips. I was changing. And not everyone around me liked it. My board noticed. Investors questioned my focus. You're distracted, one partner told me. You've been missing meetings. Pulling back. I didn't deny it. Because he was right. I was distracted. But not in a bad way. I was just waking up to what life could be, outside of a conference room. I began to wonder, was I willing to lose parts of that old world for a chance at something real? And then came the question I hadn't dared ask out loud. Was Emily ready to fully step into mine? One evening, after her shift, we sat on her fire escape like we used to. Stars above. City buzzing below. I've been thinking, I said. She looked over, tired but content. About what? About us. About next steps. She raised an eyebrow. Next steps. I took a deep breath. I want you to move in with me. Her eyes widened. Are you sure? Never been more sure. She didn't answer right away. She looked down at the street, at the people passing below. I love you, she said. But I don't want to be another thing you rescued. I want to come into your world because I chose it. Not because it's easier. Not because it's beautiful. But because I belong there. With you. You do, I said. She nodded. Then give me a little more time. Just a little. To feel like I've earned that step. I smiled. Take all the time you need. Because I knew in that moment, she wasn't running. She was preparing. And sometimes, love isn't just a feeling. It's readiness. Love grows slowly when it's real. Like roots pushing deep into soil, quiet, steady, unshakable. Emily didn't move in that week. Or the next. But she didn't drift away either. She kept showing up, in small, important ways. She left notes in my jacket pocket, snuck homemade sandwiches into my briefcase, called just to hear my voice between shifts. And I did the same. I took meetings near her store just so I could walk her home after work, brought her dinner when she was too tired to cook, and listened, truly listened, when she talked about her dreams. It wasn't fast. But it was solid. Then came the letter. It arrived one morning in a thin, cream-colored envelope with gold script on the front. I assumed it was another gala invite and tossed it aside while skimming emails. But something made me stop and open it. It was from a university. Columbia. Inside was a formal thank you for a scholarship I'd funded years ago, along with an invitation to a donor event, and a note that Emily Parker had been accepted into their part-time literature program. I blinked. Emily hadn't mentioned applying. That evening, I drove straight to her apartment. She looked up from the couch, surprised to see me unannounced. "Hey, what's wrong?" I pulled the letter from my coat pocket and handed it to her. She went pale. "Oh. That's all you've got for me?" "Oh." She folded the letter in her hands, silent for a moment. "I wasn't trying to hide it," she said softly. "I just didn't know how to tell you. Emily, this is amazing. Why wouldn't you tell me something like this?" She looked down. "Because I didn't want you to think I was chasing something else. That I wasn't fully here." My voice dropped. "Are you?" She looked me in the eye. "No. I'm chasing something with you. But I'm also chasing something for me. And I didn't want those two things to compete." I sat beside her, heart pounding with 100 emotions. "You think I'd be anything other than proud?" "I know you would," she said. "But I also know how your world works. The people you know, the circles you move in, they expect your partner to be polished, educated, impressive." I reached for her hand. "You're the most impressive person I know." She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "I want to do this, Noah. I want to study. I want to write. I want to feel like I have a future that's more than just paycheck to paycheck." "Then do it," I said. "And I'll be the guy waiting outside your classroom with coffee." Tears filled her eyes. "You always say the right thing." "No," I whispered. "I just say the true thing." That night, she held me tighter than usual. And I realized something. We were no longer afraid of each other's pasts. Now, we were building a future that had room for both our dreams. But the universe has a habit of testing you just when you start to feel safe. 2 weeks later, Rachel was rushed to the hospital. A car accident. She'd been on her way to a job interview. Emily called me in tears, voice shaking so hard I could barely understand her. I left a board meeting mid-presentation and raced to the ER. Rachel had a concussion and a broken arm. Nothing life-threatening, thank God. But when we saw her in that hospital bed, hooked up to IVs, pale and bruised, I saw something shift in Emily. Guilt. Deep and sharp. "I should have been with her," she whispered later, sitting on a bench outside the hospital. "You couldn't have known." She was nervous about the interview. I told her I couldn't come because I had class prep. If I'd just... "Emily," I said gently, "this wasn't your fault." She didn't respond. Just stared out into the dark parking lot. After that, everything changed again. She didn't say it outright. But I saw the signs. She started skipping class. Volunteering for more shifts at the store. Talking about stability and being there for family instead of chasing dreams. She was retreating. "I can't do both," she finally told me one night. "Be the sister Rachel needs and the woman you deserve." "Don't say that," I snapped, more harshly than I meant. She flinched. "It's true." "No, it's not. You don't have to earn love, Emily. You just have to accept it." She looked at me with glassy eyes. "I don't know how," she whispered. That broke me. Because I realized she'd never had anyone who stayed long enough to teach her how. I wrapped her in my arms, whispering over and over, "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." For the next few days, we both tried to act like things were fine. But there was a quiet strain, like a thread pulled too tight. She was distant. Exhausted. I started staying at my own place again, thinking space might help. It didn't. Then one Friday night, around 10 p.m., she called me. Her voice was quiet. Controlled. But I heard the emotion under it. Can you come over? Of course. When I arrived, she was already on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. She handed me a small box. Inside was my toothbrush. A pair of socks. A note I'd written her months ago. I felt a rock drop in my stomach. What is this? I think I need to press pause, she said. Emily. I love you, she interrupted, voice cracking. God, I love you so much it scares me. But I can't give you half of me, Noah. And right now, the other half is just broken. I don't want perfect, I said. I just want you. I know. And that's what makes this harder. I took her hand, desperate. You're not alone. We get through this together. She shook her head. You deserve someone who doesn't have to choose between love and survival. Tears spilled from her eyes. And I need to prove to myself that I can survive without losing who I am. I didn't fight her. I just held her until she pulled away. And then I walked back to my car, every step feeling heavier than the last. I didn't hear from her for a while after that. I checked in on Rachel, she was recovering well. I knew Emily was working, going to class when she could, balancing her world with a quiet determination I'd fallen in love with. I didn't try to fix it. This time, I gave her space. Not because I wanted distance. But because I loved her enough to let her figure out who she was, without me clouding the view. Then, 3 weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Just my name, written in the handwriting I'd memorized. Inside was a folded note. And a photo. The note read, I don't need to be rescued anymore. But I'd love to walk beside you, if you're still there. The photo was of us, taken by Rachel, I guessed, on the beach during our weekend getaway. We were barefoot, laughing, holding hands. We looked like two people who had decided to choose each other, again and again. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Sometimes love is loud, a declaration, a grand gesture. Other times, it's quiet. A single sentence on a piece of paper. I don't need to be rescued anymore. But I'd love to walk beside you, if you're still there. I must have read that line a dozen times, each word sinking deeper than the last. Was I still there? God, yes. I had never left. The next morning, I walked out of a meeting halfway through a proposal. My assistant didn't even question it. He looked at the envelope in my hand and gave a slight nod, like he knew this moment was bigger than the deal I was supposed to close. I went to the supermarket. Not because she worked that shift, but because that's where it had all started. I parked in the same spot I had the day I first saw her, the girl with the tired smile and eyes that stopped me cold. And then, with a racing heart and shaking hands, I drove to her apartment. I didn't call. Didn't text. If she was ready, she'd be there. When she opened the door, she was barefoot, in an old college hoodie, her hair in a messy bun. And I swear I'd never seen anything more beautiful. She blinked at me, unsure. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I held up the envelope. You gave me a map back to you. I'd be an idiot not to follow it. Her smile trembled. So, what now? I stepped forward, hands gently cupping her face. Now, I whispered, we stop being afraid. She pulled me into the apartment, and we sat on the floor, side by side, knees touching. For a long time, we didn't say anything. And then she began. I kept trying to be strong. Independent. And I think in the process, I forgot that love isn't about doing everything alone. I nodded. You were never alone, Emily. I just gave you space because I thought that's what you needed. She exhaled, slow. It was. For a little while. I needed to remember who I was without anyone's help. But I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second. I know, I said. And I never stopped waiting. She looked at me then, truly looked, and I knew, deep in my bones, that this woman wasn't someone I just loved. She was home. Over the next few weeks, everything slowly started to fall back into place. But this time, it was different. This time, we weren't just holding onto something fragile, we were building something strong. Emily returned to her literature program with renewed fire. She cut back a few shifts at the store, with Rachel's encouragement, and started writing short stories at night. I read every one of them. Cried over some. Laughed out loud at others. They were beautiful. Raw. Honest. Just like her. And Rachel. She was healing too. She found a part-time job at a bookstore, enrolled in night classes, and even started dating someone, a gentle guy who brought her flowers and didn't flinch when she talked about her past. It felt like the pieces of their lives, once scattered and bruised, were slowly being reassembled into something whole. One quiet evening, Emily and I stood in her tiny kitchen, making pasta. She stirred the sauce. I chopped garlic. We moved like we'd been doing it forever. Have you ever thought, she asked suddenly, what would have happened if you never stopped at that supermarket? I smiled. Every day. And I thanked the universe I was thirsty that day. She laughed, wiping her hands on a towel. Do you ever worry, she continued, that we come from such different worlds? Not anymore, I said. Because you didn't just step into mine. You made space for both of ours. And I'm better for it. She leaned in. We built our own world, didn't we? I kissed her. We're just getting started. A few months later, I took her to dinner. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet Italian place with candles on the table and jazz in the background. We talked about everything. About her writing. My shifting priorities at work. Our next trip. And then I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath hitched. She covered her mouth. Emily Parker, I said, kneeling down right there between the tables and half-finished plates of tiramisu, you are the strongest, kindest, most incredible woman I've ever known. I don't want perfect. I don't want easy. I want you. Just as you are. Will you marry me? The restaurant faded into silence. Tears filled her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Of course I will. Applause erupted around us, but I barely heard it. All I could hear was the sound of her heart beating against mine when she hugged me, trembling and laughing and crying all at once. We didn't rush the wedding. We planned it slow, intentional, and small. Just family and close friends. Rachel was the maid of honor. Chris, my assistant, stood by my side as best man, after giving Emily a long, heartfelt speech about how lucky I was. Emily wore a simple white dress. I wore a suit that didn't cost a fortune but made her eyes light up when she saw me. And when we said our vows, we didn't just promise to love each other. We promised to choose each other, every day. Through uncertainty. Through quiet mornings and stormy nights. Through grocery runs and job shifts and old fears that sometimes came knocking. We promised to walk side by side. Not as rescuer and rescued. But as two people who had found peace in each other's arms. Years passed. And in that time, a lot changed. Emily became a published author. Her first book, a collection of short stories loosely inspired by the people she met at the supermarket, got picked up by a mid-size publisher. I've never seen her face glow like it did the day she signed the contract. I stepped back from the corporate grind. I opened a foundation in my parents' name, one that offered scholarships to people like Emily. Like Rachel. People who didn't grow up with every door open but found a way to break through anyway. And eventually, we welcomed a daughter into our lives. Hazel. She has her mother's eyes and my stubborn streak. Loves bedtime stories and rain puddles. Thinks her mom's books are magic. And she's right. Sometimes, I still think about that day. When I stopped for a bottle of water and met the woman who would change my life. It wasn't fate. It was choice. I could have walked away. Could have stayed safe. But something in her eyes told me that loving her would be the real journey. And it was. Messy. Complicated. Beautiful. She didn't need rescuing. She needed someone to believe she was worth fighting for. And I did. Every day. And I always will.